This interview is part of our Road to EF series. You can find the rest by clicking here. The Haunted Island, a frog detective game. The Haunted Island, which has been nominated for Best Student Game of 2019, follows a nice amphibian detective to an island of spooky, mysterious, and cheerful animal friends. Gamasutra spoke with Grace Bruxner, developer of The Haunted Island, to learn about what thoughts go into creating a welcoming community for players to visit with the game, the silliness that came with trying to make Noire a little less serious, and the power behind a smile. I am Grace Bruxner and I am the creative lead on The Haunted Island, a frog detective game. I made the majority of the game, including art, narrative, and design, with programming by Thomas Bowker, and a wonderful soundtrack by Dan Golding. I have made a few games before. The best known are probably The Fish Market and Alien Casino, which were both 3D museum diorama style games. Alien Casino specifically brought me into a more public eye, and was exhibited at a bunch of festivals and exhibitions worldwide, which was very cool for a tiny act like me. I studied for the past 3 years, doing game design at RMIT, and made The Haunted Island during my final year capstone project, graduating shortly after. Also, at the start of my second year, I got a job at the Melbourne-based games company like Geeks, and I have been there for almost 2 years now. It started with wanting to make a game about a frog detective, because I thought it deep fun to have a game that was like Noir, but way less serious, with the same style of music and story, but nothing bad really happening. I told my partner Tom about this idea in mid-2017, and it kinda stuck around for a while. I made a plan for a game set in a beach town, where something had been stolen and there would be multiple endings, depending on who you thought was the culprit. That scope was way too big, and I wanted to scale it down for a style and mood test, and that's where The Haunted Island began. Originally, I had scoped it down so much that it had almost no interaction at all besides talking. But once I started making the game, I realized it was fun to make it a weirdly elaborate game with multiple cutscenes. I use Unity and Maya for all my 3D games. For this game, I started out by making the island, populating it with trees, rocks, grass, and water, as well as a first-person camera controller. This was to get a sense of the scale. Then I used Doodle 95, which is a plugin for Unity by Fernando Ramallo, and made tiny animated sketches of the characters, so I could decide on the design and placements before I started modeling them. A lot of my design for this game came from wanting to contrast no-camera angles, music, and mood with a very non-threatening, welcoming environment and cast of characters. I think a lot of that has to do with the gentle color scheme, and the fact that everyone is smiling all the time. My 3D games since day one have had smiling faces, because I think it's funny. My first ever 3D model was of a fish with a smiling face and blinking eyes, and I thought it was the funniest thing ever, and I have kinda stuck with that aesthetic ever since, even having spent 3 years getting better at 3D. The most important thing for me about making a community within a game is to make sure the characters have a purpose for being in a space. This does not necessarily mean that they have to be contributing to the space, but that they are around for a reason. For example, the majority of the scientists have no idea what their job is or what they are supposed to be doing, but their purpose is to stand there and look busy, and they will tell you all about it. Even the sad or anxious characters have a reason to occupy their space. Mo has a great vantage point to look at MysteryMonkey. In 9, through the trees, Koala refuses to get out of the water because of the ghost, and Fresh X has found a relaxing, private spot to have a rest. Because I had not written dialogue before in a game, I felt like I had to write these characters from my own experience, without making them too similar, or too much like myself. My strategy for this was to take parts of my personality and anxieties, and assign them to each character. Mo has my self-doubt and shy nature, and Martin has my stubbornness and fixation on believing things to be true without evidence. Each other character has something similar, positive or negative. Most characters have some sort of vulnerability that I have in myself. When they are contrasted with the detective, who is very logical and kind, it became easy for me to write the characters, because it felt like I was having a conversation between my logical brain and my illogical brain. Just the circumstances were made up. The detective and the player are both there to help, and talking to characters who are a bit afraid or fragile means that THAURG to look after them is stronger, making the detective firm, but it kind also means that the game is challenging these traits in each character, without making fun of them. Talking about it like this kinda makes it sound like a super serious game, which it absolutely is not. But I did put a lot of thought into how the characters treat each other and how to make those interactions gentle. I really genuinely thought I would struggle with this. I think maybe I cheated a little bit, because the mystery is kinda arbitrary, and it would not matter too much if it was spoiled too early. I definitely had playtesters who guessed the ending straight away. To me, this does not matter much. It's not a mystery game in a traditional sense. It's a game about talking to characters pretending to be a mystery game. It's about the ride. There's also the fact that nobody except for Larry has literally any idea what's going on, so hiding the mystery was never a huge problem. There's a bit of foreshadowing, sure, but I am probably the wrong person to ask about making a mystery feel mysterious. I just want the mystery to feel silly. If it's mysterious, that's a bonus. Playfulness for me, in the Haunted Island specifically, comes by taking things very seriously and framing unimportant moments with an air of drama. It's like how soap operas can be very silly because of their self-seriousness. Characters in soap operas and telenovelas are so invested in the story, but because it's so dramatic, it's hard to take it seriously as a watcher. Everyone in the Haunted Island is really invested in the mystery, but everyone is indeed doing a bad job, and as a player that means you cannot take it seriously. There's a dramatic introduction with incredible music, but then it pans to a little smiling frog on a boat. Even having the magnifying glass that does nothing contributes to the playfulness, because it gives you a way to roleplay like you would in other games, but sillier and with less purpose. The German Consumer Protection Authority, VZBV, is taking Nintendo to cut over Nintendo's digital pre-order policies, specifically over the strict policy that eShop pre-orders cannot be cancelled. Eurogamer spotted a report from the Norwegian site, PressFire, that says the VZBV is well on its way to starting formal proceedings, and has moved the entire case. The whole affair kicked off earlier this year in Norway, and the Norwegian consumer body behind that complaint has since been in communication with the VZBV in order to get this current case started. In Nintendo of Europe's home country of Germany, originally, the Norwegian Consumer Council accused Nintendo of violating the European Union's Consumer Rights Directive that rules that customers in the EU and European Economic Area have the right to withdraw from a purchase if the product has yet to be distributed. Nintendo's terms affirm that all sales made on the eShop are final, including those made for games that have yet to release. PressFire says that, in response to the earlier complaint,